Welcome back. Over the last few episodes, we've been talking about financial freedom. We've redefined what it is, we've talked about knowing what you're saving for, we've discussed building systems that make wise financial decisions repeatable, and we've learned how to recognize real progress instead of becoming discouraged by short term results. Now, let's imagine you've done all of that. You've stayed faithful, you've built the right habits, you've reached the point where money is no longer the thing driving your everyday decisions. Let me ask you a question. If money wasn't an issue, would you still work? Most people answer that question very quickly. Some immediately say no. Others say maybe. But I think there's a deeper question hiding underneath it. If money stopped deciding how you spend your time, what would? Because I don't think the greatest gift of financial freedom is having nothing to do. I think it's finally having the freedom to choose what deserves your life. As you listen today, I'd like you to imagine something. Tomorrow morning, you wake up knowing you'll never need another paycheck. Not because you've won the lottery, not because someone else is taking care of you, but because you've faithfully built the financial freedom we've been talking about throughout this series. Now ask yourself this. What would you put on your calendar? Not your vacation, not your bucket list, but your ordinary Monday. Because I think the answer tells us far more about our priorities than we realize. We'll come back to that question before we finish. Now, I'd love to hear your answer. If money were no longer the deciding factor, what would you choose to spend more of your time doing? Share it in the comments below. I think it's one of those questions that's worth reflecting on, and your answer might encourage someone else to think beyond simply retiring. For many years, our culture has taught us that financial freedom and retirement are basically the same thing. Work hard, save enough, then one day stop working. But something interesting has happened over the years as I've met people who have achieved financial independence. Many of them didn't stop working. In fact, some became even more productive than before. The difference wasn't that they worked more. The difference was that they finally had the freedom to choose why they worked. That's a very different kind of life. The pressure of necessity had been replaced by the freedom of intentionality. I sometimes think we can learn more about a person's priorities by looking at their calendar than by looking at their investment portfolio. A portfolio tells us where our money has gone. A calendar tells us where our life is going. Before financial freedom, many calendars are shaped by obligation. Meetings because we have to, projects because we need the income, decisions driven by financial necessity. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? Most of us begin there. But financial freedom gradually creates something remarkable: choice. You can spend more time mentoring younger professionals, for example, more time with your spouse, more unhurried conversations with your children, more opportunities to serve your community, perhaps even work that pays less but aligns more closely with your values. Notice what's changing. Not your work ethic, your freedom to align your time with what matters most. If these conversations are helping you think differently about money and the life it's meant to support, I'd appreciate it if you take a moment to like the video and subscribe. Every week, I share insights to help you build not just financial success, but the freedom to live with greater wisdom and intention. One word I often come back to is optionality. Financial freedom doesn't tell you what to do, it simply gives you more freedom to choose wisely. You can continue leading your business because you enjoy creating value, not because you're trapped. You can accept opportunities that reflect your convictions instead of simply the highest salary. You can become more generous because your own future is more secure. You can say yes more intentionally. And perhaps just as importantly, you can say no without fear. I think that's one of the quiet gifts of financial freedom. It gives you permission to make decisions based on purpose instead of pressure. Sometimes people ask me, so are you saying we should all keep working forever? Not necessarily. I'm saying meaningful contribution doesn't suddenly lose its value because you've accumulated enough wealth. I mean, human beings were created to contribute, right? To build, to serve, to teach, to create, to encourage. Those expressions simply look different at different stages of life. Financial freedom doesn't remove that desire. If anything, it removes many of the obstacles that kept us from pursuing it more intentionally. That's why I don't think the question is, will I still work? No. The better question is, what work will be most worthy of my life when money is no longer making the decisions for me? That's a much richer conversation, don't you think? When we first started this series, we asked what financial freedom really means. Perhaps now we can answer that question a little more completely. Financial freedom isn't simply having enough money, it's having greater freedom over one of your most valuable resources, your time. And time is precious because it's finite. Once it's spent, we never get it back. That's why I believe wise financial planning has never been just about accumulating wealth. It's about creating the freedom to invest your limited years in what matters most. Money can never buy more time, but it can help you use the time you've been given more intentionally. To me, that's one of the greatest gifts financial freedom can offer. So let me bring you back to the question we started with. If money wasn't an issue, what would you put on your calendar? If your answer is simply nothing, I wonder if you've underestimated the opportunities financial freedom could create for you. But if your answer includes people, purpose, service, meaningful work, relationships, then perhaps you're beginning to see financial freedom not as an escape from life, but as greater freedom to fully engage in it. That leads us to the final conversation in this series. If financial freedom ultimately gives us the freedom to pursue what matters, what is financial freedom really for? That's the question we'll explore in our final episode. I'm Juan Castros from Beacon Wealth Advisory. I'll see you in the next episode.